Broads Media.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. This Flyers 10 o'clock start crap needs to be wrapped up. Any day now, it would be lovely for you to hit the East Coast so my body clock can stay on a normal schedule and I could talk about this team with standard flow. Because right now, I'm getting my ass kicked and it's disappointing. What else is disappointing is the outcome in Edmonton. Yes, they grabbed a point, and yes, a 1-1-1 West Coast trip with one more game to go in Seattle isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if you find a way to grab both points against the Kraken. I would look at that as a positive for sure. I thought you missed a chance there against the Oilers, and I get it. They are not an 0-3 team, even though that's what their record said they were. They have some weird version of a hangover going on from the Game 7 loss in the Stanley Cup Finals and the battle to get to that point once they fell so hard in the first couple of games. It takes a lot of energy out of you. Now you got to play games 1, 2, and 3 of the regular season with the heartbreak still on your mind. It does take a toll on your body and in between the ears, and you got to take advantage of that if you're the Flyers, especially with how the first period started. Corey Perry shoving his stick in the gut of Scott Lawton as he's trying to make a change. That gives you a power play. You had so many man advantages, and it's not as if they weren't doing damage. I mean, Matvei Michkov had 2 goals. It's what, 2 minutes into the show? I'm just talking about Matvei Michkov? Shame on me. I'm a joke. I mean, Matvei Michkov, he did it in a couple different ways, too. You want to get greasy? You want to score when you're right around the paint? When you're mucking in front of the netminder? Okay. Or do you want to have a beautiful 1-T as he's starting to glide towards the goal line and rips it short side? You want it beautiful? You want it ugly? You want it where it's not making SportsCenter top 10? Or do you want to see how the skill is displayed? You get a taste of both. Did I think for a second that the refs were going to call the goal back because he pushed the pad in the net a little bit as he was fighting? If the NHL did that, I would have been disgusted. I've seen the NHL make worse calls, especially as of late. I feel whenever I refresh my Twitter feed, there's Spit and Chicklets or there's TSN or there's any hockey outlet that's quote tweeting an obnoxious accidental elbow touches a blocker 7 minutes before the puck hits twine, and they go back and they take the goal off the board. So who knows? It was a little crushing that that's the way you experience your first goal. You got to wait for the refs to say yes or no. Then you got to wait for the Oilers to challenge the call and get another set of eyes on it. But guess what, damn it? I look at that box score and I see 2 Genos under Matvei Michkov's name. Wow, what do you know? The power play actually works. The power play has a vision. The power play has an identity. When you have someone of that caliber out there, it's crazy. It's crazy. When he scored his second goal, when he was skating behind the net and looking at the glass, essentially saying, come on now. Bring it on, motherfucker! Bring it on! It just shows you the way he's wired. This dude's only getting started. He knows he's going to dominate. He knows he's going to score a bunch. He sees himself as a 30-plus goal scorer. This is just one of many. This is just one of a 2-goal night. We're going to see that again. Hell, we may see it in Seattle. I figured the offensive explosion was coming, but just based off of what I saw in the first couple of games, maybe, just maybe it would be because of his passing, his ability to find guys in open space, his ability to get the puck to someone who's wide open when there's a little wiggle room to thread the needle, but he somehow does it, puts it right on the tape. Maybe there'd be a game where he gets 3 apples. But once you find one, normally the floodgates open, especially for a kid that has the skill that he has. So it's must-watch stuff. It really is. And the fact that he was able to do it early in the game instead of having a little bit of a dud first period and then slowly working his way into a better groove in the second. And then by the third, he's trying 7 Michigans, but the entire East Coast is already sleeping. I want him to dominate. And the reason I put such an emphasis on that early in games, in these West Coast games, is this is grabbing the city type stuff. Matvei Michkov isn't just for us fans, but I take a lot of pride in growing the game to the very casuals or even for the ones that lock in just that playoff time. He's going to force you, the common man, the common woman, to tune in on a random Tuesday night when they play the Vancouver Canucks. So for him to, pop off within the first period with a couple of goals, it makes me happy. So let's get to the bad stuff, because unfortunately there was some things that didn't make me happy. You were up 2-0. You were up 3-2. I want to see you close that game out. I do. That move by Owen Tippett, holy shit. That move by Owen Tippett was probably one of the grossest things I've ever seen. He needed to bury. He needed to, if he finished, I don't know what would have happened, but things would have happened with my body that I can't explain. That was filthy, just filthy. I'm replaying in my mind right now. I watched the slow-mo when they went back to it, and they did it in a slower speed. Are you serious? His shot, too, heavy. Just a heavy player, man. When he gets moving that speed with that frame, with that ability to work the puck in and out of a defender. I needed to see that fine twine. I really did. But anyway, you had multiple different chances with the lead. You got to finish it out. And I thought there were costly mistakes on the Flyers' end. Meaning that second goal, you got to get the puck out of the zone. We're playing around too much with it on the half wall, on the sideboards. Get the puck out of the zone. Get the puck out of the zone. Use the glass. Put it out in space where nobody is. You cannot turn the puck over there. I also didn't like, as much as Urson's great, by the way, and I think he's been playing tremendous hockey when he's in between the pipes. But the rebound control for the backhand goal that just sat there in the high slot, and that was the second one that sat right in that same area. He made the save the first time around. Was it Darnell Nurse? I forget who it was the first time around. But then, it kind of happens again. In the second period, we got to clean that up. You can't be allowing a rebound to pop right there. It's not good. So you got the rebound I would like cleaned up, the half wall stuff that needs to be cleaned up, and then for the third goal to tie it, to send it to overtime, how is Bouchard that wide open on the backside? You can't fall asleep. You can't puck watch. You can't have your eyes just staring down at the ice while someone's slipping right behind you. You got to be on your toes. And I get it. This team is not perfect, but there are some guys. Sanheim, been around a while now, right? Sanheim, you look at his box score, been out there for a couple of those Edmonton goals. Cam York had a rough day in the plus-minus department for whatever it's worth. Not that that tells the whole story, but Sanheim and York had a couple of dashes out there. And, someone like Sanheim, when you talk about being young and youth and growing pains, and you think of Luchenko, you think of Matvei Michkov, you think of Tyson Forster. At this time, Sanheim's been in the league long enough, right? TK, Couturier, Farabee, there's guys that are past the learning curve a little bit farther along the tracks, let's say, than others. So when I discuss still being young and still learning and still kind of gaining that experience, Yes, that's true to some level. Even Cam York, it still applies to him. It's hard to be a defenseman in this league, especially at his age. So there's definitely going to be times he makes mistakes and whatnot. But I guess it's a case-by-case example and a person-on-person example. Urson's 24 years old. If I'm talking about rebound control, whatever. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm not being harsh enough, depending on who's making the mistake. I'm kind of figuring that out on the fly because, well, this team is different than last year's team. So I'm just trying to figure out how to judge them. What type of baseline am I giving? Some have a longer leash than others, and I'm talking through this out loud with you. I think I'll learn as I continue to watch this team go out there and compete. Speaking of Luchenko, matched up against Connor McDavid, I am so impressed with this kid. Look, obviously, at the time of the draft, when the professionals are saying, whoa, this is a stunner, and he's limited on the offensive side of the game, and he's so raw and this and that, I didn't like the pick at the time of the draft. He didn't seem like a blue chip style prospect. He seemed like a prospect that was like, hey, okay, it's nice, but with the state of the franchise, I wanted a Matvei Michkov. I wanted a Cutter Gauthier. So that was sort of my reasoning behind maybe not loving the Luchenko pick based off of what the experts were saying he'd be who scout him. This kid could play. I mean, if you're doing this well at this age, holy hell. You're getting matched up with Connor McDavid. I don't like the idea of sending him down after the 9 games and then he could go play for the Storm. I don't think that's going to do him better than being matched up against Connor McDavid. I just don't. Quite frankly, I don't. I want him to play. I want him to continue to gain experience out there. I want him to continue to make mistakes. I want him to continue to make good plays. He almost had the goal. Hey, I thought he was going to light the lamp prior. Did anybody think he was going to light the lamp prior? Now, Bobby Brink ended up getting the goal as he sent the puck towards the net, and Luchenko was there. It just hit off the Oilers and went in instead of Luchenko getting a piece of it. The fact that he's in a position to even hold his own weight against arguably one of the most skilled position players we may ever see. With his lack of NHL experience, guys who've been in the league for 10 years can't sniff Connor McDavid's jockstrap. And I'm not telling you Luchenko shut him down as if he's the greatest two-way forward to ever live. But he's just getting a taste. And he looks competent. To look competent so raw and early instead of looking exposed, getting annihilated, looking lost, getting toast, nonstop, getting burnt. He could play here. He could play here. Will he dominate here right now? No. Can he constantly give you good effort, good bottom six style of play on a night-to-night basis? Yes. Is that better than playing for the Gulf Storm? Yes. Yes. This almost relates, if you're a Phillies fan, this almost relates to Johan Rojas. And hear me out. Johan Rojas, if he was in an organization where we weren't demanding a World Series now, you can just toss him out in center field. You can allow him to get 4 at-bats a game. You can go let Johan Rojas experience all this stuff on the fly. And you can live with the results. Some days will be good, some days will be rough, and you just kind of go with the flow with him. And you see if he reaches the max potential he can reach. But when you are in a spot where the city is screaming at the GM or the president and screaming at the manager and we demand getting past the Mets in an NLDS, you don't have the luxury. Well, right now, the Flyers are in a great spot for Luchenko to just go be you. Play your game. We will assess. We'll watch the film. We'll tweak. We'll tell you where you need to improve. We'll tell you where we want you to continue to do what you've been doing and what you're capable of doing and how we see you progressing. This is significantly more important than playing with the Gulf Storm. I don't even think it's a debate. It's not about, well, he's not dominating. He doesn't need to. There's plenty of growth that happens just by being out there at a competent level. And by the way, to say he's not dominating is devaluing his positive plays. He does make positive plays out there. I am stunned by this. Hell, I think a lot of the hockey world is. I heard a clip from Elliot Friedman when he was doing his 32 thoughts, and he's like, yo, I'm hearing that this kid's going to make it out. I mean, what a stunner. What a shocker. You kidding me? Jet Luchenko's already playing? That's absurd. Let's ride this thing out. This isn't hurting him. If I truly thought this was bashing his confidence or really, putting an insane amount of pressure on him that he's not ready to live up to, then fine. But that's not the case. And everybody I talk to that knows him personally, but gets to interview him, gets to be around him at practice more, they say this kid does not sound as young as he is, meaning he holds himself very highly. He sounds like a veteran. When they talk to him, they almost feel like they're talking to a guy who's been in the league for 8 years. You got to be able to hold yourself that way. That's important. That's important. And physically, the way he looks, they say this kid is, this kid's in shape. Might not eat a carb. It's unbelievable. I eat carbs. Okay. What else? The fighting. When Sean Couturier hits the goalie and then they go after you, you kind of have to. You put yourself in that position. You drop your bits. Okay. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm a douche. But I don't know if I necessarily love Joel Farabee fighting Corey Perry. I want Joel Farabee, as much as he does have a pestiness to him, and he's definitely willing to show you he's got an edge. I don't know if I necessarily want to see him in positions where he's fighting someone like Corey Perry. There was an uppercut that was thrown, and dude, if that connected, my man would have been lights out. I have big goals for Farabee this year. I truly believe he can get back to a dominating player. I want that to be more of the focus than going after Corey Perry. I like the fact this team has balls. I like the fact that this team is unwilling to get walked all over or skated all over. Like there's a toughness about this group, even if they have a certain age tied to them or a young team. Like, okay, I get that. I like the attitude they play with. I just don't know if that's a battle I necessarily love. But maybe I'm just being a hard. Maybe it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm trying to keep my eyes open, and that's more of the issue. Before we take a couple calls, though, I will say, as this is my last note I wrote down about the Seattle game, 2-1-1 is a big difference from 1-1-2, 1-2-1. I want to see a win against Seattle. I do. I do kind of, in a way, not actually, but in a way, it's a must win for this road trip to be solid. It could be okay being 1-1-2. It's okay. It's okay. It's not bad, right? It's not bad. But I want to end it. I think they played well enough to have a good road trip. I think they played well enough, albeit I haven't seen what happened in Seattle yet. We'll wait until Thursday night for that to go down. But I think they've earned a better, respectful result based off of what I've seen these first 3 games. And if you add in the 4th, and I expect them to play well then as well, 2-1-1 just sounds nicer. So, all right, listen. We are going to take a couple of calls. First, though, of course, my friends over at Garage Beer. They are the greatest in the world. Smooth drinking. Okay, listen to this classic beer selection that they have. Their small batch of brewed light lager, 95 calories, 3 grams of carbs. There is nothing better. No bitterness. Beer that tastes like beer. Definitely not an IPA. 0% IPA, 100% light beer, 1,000% quality. Make sure you check them out at drinkgaragebeer.com. The information is down below. And real quick, if you are new to the channel, you can hit the subscribe button. The thumbs up button helps out tremendously as well. And if you are looking to take me on the road with you, you can search Sports Talk with Broads or Broads Media on any of your podcasting platform. And if you leave a 5-star rating and a review there, that would really mean the world. So thank you all so much for that. Okay, so with that, let's start the calls off. Let's go to Sam.
Well, it's the good old Philly collapse, isn't it? Boy, do I love that shit at 1 o'clock in the morning. Hey, at least they got a point, and at least Matvei is the Messiah. And, Tort's going to be eating his words for the next 10 years because that boy is the fucking Messiah. All right. See you at the next collapse.
I think that's a little harsh. No, it's a little heavy. Was it a full-on collapse? I didn't like the outcome. I didn't like the results, but I can't compare this to an Eagles situation, a Phillies situation. It was, hey, we got a point. We should have had two, but at least we got a point. It's a regular season, one slipped away from you. Against a team, by the way, that's extremely desperate. I know we're not accustomed to the lifestyle here in Philadelphia, but the way the Edmonton Oilers fans view their team is the way we react to the Eagles on a day-to-day basis. You go listen to Edmonton Sports Talk Radio, which, by the way, I do. There's times where I go to Toronto, I go to Calgary back when Johnny Gaudreau was out there. I would like to get a taste of how they do their sports talk radio. They're breaking down fourth line, 7 minutes of ice time, and they demand less time. They want 9 minutes. They talk about healthy scratches, who deserves to be in the lineup, and like that's their opening of the show at 2 o'clock for a afternoon drive show. Can you believe that the 15th forward on the roster didn't play any time yesterday? He could have helped out on the PK. That's how they hold their hockey team accountable. So, you go to the Stanley Cup Finals, you lose a gut punch. You start out 0-3 with Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. They had to win that game. They had to win that game. I think that played a role. When you look at it from a overhead view, a bird's eye view, when you bring it to the nature of a Phillies collapse, knowing the circumstances surrounding that team, where they were at home, they had such an awful first. I think someone probably had to say something in that locker room, kicking trash cans, screaming, maybe breaking the board. You got one of those handheld coaching boards where you draw up a play whenever they show the assistant coach drawing up a play when they call a timeout with 1 minute and 47 seconds to go in the third with the goalie pulled. Maybe you snap one of those over your kneecap, chuck it at the wall on your way out. The Sharpie marker goes bouncing. Not that I've been in many locker rooms where my coach has been that frustrated. Sure have. Oh, I sure have. So they came back and won. I don't like it. I don't like it. Just in the context of it getting described as, oh, here we go again. I don't know. I didn't feel that way. Listen, that call came in at 1:12 a.m. So maybe fatigue has settled in with the caller still. All right, let's check in on Amadeo.
Well, that's got to be disappointing right there. Just you had the game in the palm of your hand, and you allow Edmonton to force overtime.
Yeah, you know what? I like that word disappointing, by the way. Disappointing. It's a good word to use.
And then just a complete breakdown in overtime one. There should have been a penalty called on Edmonton again in the overtime for knocking down Sanheim, and then Travis Konecny just being completely oblivious on the entire play after Ersson makes the beautiful save on McDavid's breakaway. Konecny just has no idea where the puck is. Complete breakdown allows Draisaitl to just completely bury the garbage, and Ersson had way no chance there. Many positives to take, a lot of negatives to take from this game. Matvei Michkov is here, 2 goals. The power play does look a lot better, but then when you look at the stat sheet, you see 2 of 7 on the power play. Edmonton was completely hand-feeding you this game, even though, yes, it's baby steps to getting a better power play, and this power play definitely looks a lot better from last year, and I can't ask for too much from this Flyers power play, but you need to score a little more when you're getting 7 power plays in the game, especially when Edmonton is just completely collapsing on their stuff with frustration.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's perfect. I really do. And I feel very similar to that. When you go from such a putrid power play to this, we're excited and all. But that first period, you really could have hit them harder. I remember listening to the intermission show that they had on ESPN yesterday, and they pretty much laid it out. It's only 2-0, but it feels like 4-0 Philadelphia. Normally when that happens, you're opening the door just a little bit. There could be a tiny crack in the door that allows for the other team just to maybe peek their head in, and when it becomes 2-1, that's essentially what that is. So I'm with you. I think they had more chances to score, and that's the next development, of course. But imagine if it's 3-0 after one. Imagine, hell, if it's 4-0 after one. And you're not going to score every power play ever. I get that. But, hey, you almost had a TK Scott Lawton goal on the penalty kill. Maybe you factor in one of those as a goal. Potentially, it could be a 5-on-5 goal. It doesn't always have to be every power play. But you're right. You could have scored more. They were giving you the game, and you needed to take advantage a little bit more. So from that aspect, it is disappointing. They let one slip. But on Thursday, you win the game. You get 2. Now we're talking. Now we're talking before the home opener. So, all right, everybody, that's going to do it. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thanks for working around this crazy West Coast schedule, I guess. It's been rocky. So appreciate it, guys. Love you to death, and I'll see you all on the next one.